Hey there, it's Kat and this is Brews and Reviews. So I'm sure you guys have all been expecting this. These are the worst books that I read in 2019. These aren't necessarily books that came out in 2019. I don't think any of them came out in 2019, but I read them in 2019 and yeah, these are the ones that I had the worst experiences with. So I'm just gonna get right into it. This video doesn't need to be that long. I don't really just want to bash these books because I know a lot of people really enjoy them, but like, I didn't. So this video is all my opinion and sorry I hated these books. I mean, actually that's not even true because I didn't actually rate all of these books that low. Some of them I did and some of them I rated at about 3 stars. It's just that they were the most disappointing and that makes them the worst for me because I have a thing about being hyped up for something and then disappointed and then it just is so much worse than if I'd gone into it thinking, well, this is going to be toss, because I had that expectation. So yeah, I was disappointed by these books, therefore they are my worst books of 2019 and we're going to get started. The first book on this list should come as no surprise to anyone. It's Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. I hate this book. I hated it so much. I was reading this at work, I was listening to it, same way I listen to a lot of my books, you know, and I was just sat there like, what the fuck? The fuck am I listening to? Because it started off with a bunch of horrible people doing a bunch of horrible things. A guy pretending that he's got cancer so he can go to a cancer support group. I mean, what the fuck? So honestly, I have not seen the film of Fight Club, so I don't know how it compares. And to be honest, I'm probably not going to watch it after reading that book because of fucking hell. I don't want to subject myself to horrible people like that ever again. Thank you very much. For me, the writing style was really crass and all of the people were horrible and it just felt icky. Like, it was just horrid reading it and I didn't want to read about these people doing these horrible things, and the whole setup was just like, what? Maybe I just didn't get it. I don't know, but I really didn't enjoy it and no thank you, no thank you. The next book on this list is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So I was really hyped for this one. It follows a group of characters who are in a travelling theatre company as they go through this post-apocalyptic landscape and, you know, try and do, like, you know, their plays and stuff. And it also follows the apocalypse as it's happening. You start with this guy who's an actor who dies very, very early on, and then you sort of learn about his life. And the reason that I didn't enjoy this book was because it was boring. It was so boring. I love books about apocalypses and post-apocalypses, and I'm like, yes, really cool, it sounded really good, and it just didn't deliver at all. Spent most of the time in the actual apocalypse focusing on this guy, the actor guy, and his relationships, and I just didn't care. Like, why are we focusing on this? People are dying. Like, let's focus on the people dying and, like, people trying to stop them from dying. No, this guy and his ex-wife, and, like, fuck, I do not care. I do not care. So that was really boring, and even the post-apocalyptic stuff was still just like, didn't care about any of the characters, could not tell you one of the characters, couldn't tell you their names. So I feel like I was just very disappointed by that one and I wanted it to be much better than it was. Maybe it was because I went into it expecting something different from what it was, but it's not the sort of style that I like to read, and I don't care about people's ex-wives and ex-husbands. It just wasn't an interesting story for me. Next up, we have a book that I really wasn't sure about, but has ended up on this list anyway, and that is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. And yeah, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do with this one, but I found that it was actually disappointing to me because I did want it to be like a much better book than it was. I'm not saying the book was bad, it just made me feel ill a lot. Very, very ill. Physically sick. I did not enjoy it. But in other times in the book I did really enjoy it, and then there would just be like a horrible, horrible moment that would just take you right out of it and be like, whoa, fuck, no, thank you, no, no, no. I just kind of expected it to be a bit more like the film, but it was, I don't know, it was just gross and I didn't enjoy it. But it was, again, like Fight Club, a bunch of horrible people doing horrible things. And I know this one was meant to be a satire. I don't know what the hell was going on in Fight Club, but I know this one was meant to be a satire, and bits of it were, and yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't for me, and that was very disappointing. So if you're going into American Psycho expecting it to be like the film, it's not. It's gross. It's really, really graphic. Really graphic. Like, think of the most graphic thing you can think of, and then times that by 10, and then put a rat in it. For me, that one was just missed the mark. Very disappointed that it wasn't what I expected it to be, but oh well. Next up we have the only book that I actually have a physical copy of, and that is The Gunslinger by Stephen King. So I was expecting to really enjoy this one, and I had heard so many good things about it. I was like, yes, this is going to be great. I'm really excited to get into this like sort of weird world, and yeah, it just sort of fell a bit flat for me. And I've struggled with this because I'm not sure if this is disappointing because I didn't personally like it, and I think that might be the case, more so than it being a bad book. I just didn't connect with The Gunslinger at all. I don't really care. Like, this book is about a gunslinger following a man in black to try and find the location of something, and the beginning of it drags on for so long. He stops in a town where the man in black has previously visited, and like there's like the aftermath of what has happened there, and he sort of stays with this woman, and I just didn't care. It took so long for anything to happen. It got more interesting when the boy showed up, but still, it just didn't grip me. Like, I can see myself reading the second in this series, which I wouldn't go back to any of the other books on this list, but this one, I could see me reading the continuation, but I'm not desperate to do it, which probably means I will never read the next one. So I'm open to it, but I'm like, don't really care. There's probably more things that I could be reading instead of this, and I thought this was going to be one that I was going to be like, yes, I want to read it, I want to read the next one, I want to keep reading it, I want to finish this entire series, and it's just not, so it's a bit disappointing, really. So now we're on to the last book that I'm going to be talking about in this video, and it is the only book that I DNF'd this year. Which is weird for me, because like usually I'm just like, oh, I'm not enjoying this, I'll DNF a book. But this year I think I've been a lot better with that. I think I know my reading tastes a lot more, and I'm just more comfortable with picking things up that I actually want to read and think I'm going to enjoy, rather than ones that I'm like, eh, which I know I'm probably not likely to enjoy. And I thought I was going to enjoy this one, genuinely thought I was going to enjoy it, and it fit a challenge for a readathon, and I just didn't like it. It was The Perks of Being the Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Insert hate comment here. I just did not like it. I followed along with horrible people doing horrible things, and it seemed to me when I was reading that book that everybody had to have a horrible thing happen to them, and then nobody would deal with it in a responsible way. Everybody had something horrible happen to them, and it just felt like I was wading through all of these people's horrible problems, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this. Why should I deal with this? And I didn't like the main character's writing style. I didn't like just the main character in general. I didn't get him. I don't know quite what they were aiming for with that, but I just didn't. It didn't gel with me. So I hated everyone else that was in it. I hated the main character, and I'm like, well, I stopped reading it. So I stopped reading it about the 45% mark, which I feel like is giving it a fair enough chance. And then what I also did was I looked up the rest of the synopsis, and I was like, you know, if it gets better, then I'm willing to keep going with it if it's going to give me something a little less depressing. But it didn't. It just got worse. And I read like the synopsis and I was like, oh my god, no, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot barge pole. Like, it just wasn't going to do anything for me. It was just going to make me sad and depressed, and like, why am I reading this about these people that I don't like having horrible things happen to them? And I just didn't. So I stopped. And that is the #1 most disappointing book that I read this year. So that concludes this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!